I read a story that I want to read to you guys. So, the Biden administration is seeking to change the census rules to identify Latino Hispanic as a race instead of an ethnicity, which may prove problematic. Proposed changes would also add a Middle Eastern North African MENA option for race. Okay, let's hear it out. A collection of civil servants governed by the Biden administration to rethink racial categories in the United States Census has proposed changes to how the census asks questions about race. As reported by Forbes, most notably, the committee has suggested creating a new racial classification for Middle Eastern and North African individuals. The experts also recommend recategorizing Latino and Hispanic identity as a racial category. These changes are among the recommendations given by a working group tasked by the Office of Management and Budget with rethinking the racial and ethnic categories that exist on the U.S. Census. The group also recommended additional changes for the 2030 census, including dropping the term Negro as an alternative to Black, as well as removing terms such as minority and majority to describe different racial groups. The current census lists a handful of broad racial categories, including American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian American, Black, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, and white. Many of these categories allow for alternative labels such as African American or Negro or Black for Black. Others break down categories into various nationalities or subgroups. For instance, the Asian category includes options such as Asian Indian, Chinese, Filipino, Japanese, and more. However, various scholars and advocates have argued that these categories are inadequate or needlessly confusing. I don't think that's true. The reason, at least among the Asian categories, that's actually really important just due to like political turmoil. Like, in the same way that we know that like North Africans are typically more like white, and like East Africans, like me, or like if you go look at like Nagad, she's Somalian, like we are East Africans, right? And there's like Black Americans, and then there's like actual Indians from India, and then there's Native Americans. Like if you think of all of those groups, or if you think of like Kim Kardashian, she's like Armenian, or like J Lo, I think is Colombian. I feel like Anita is from Brazil, Sao Paulo, right? Like all of these people have like the people from those places, like that's how they look. Their culture is like very specific. Culture is a thing. Like go look at the way that like Sagan, who is Eritrean, like brews her coffee in the morning. Like these are like literal traditional cultures, and it is important to like distinguish like Asia is a continent in the same way that Africa is a continent. So I do think that North American Arabs have their own like culture, and their culture is just very different, okay? And like that should be respected. I just don't know if it makes sense for all of these things to be respected in America, you know? Like these people have not like done shit in America. They just have like existed here. Don't get me, like their culture is very like North Africans have a culture that is relevant in North Africa. In America though, all I'm saying is that it isn't relevant. The whole point of having recognized racial identities on the US Census is to categorize and allocate resources to those groups as they need them in order for those groups to like grow. But if the populations of those groups are so small that they don't need any resources, it doesn't matter. Maybe those groups have an intent to grow here, so that's why it is important. To be honest, I don't really give a shit, but whoever does plan to stay in America, those sorts of things actually do matter. So you should like think about that. Currently, no separate category exists for individuals whose origins lie in the Middle East or North Africa, also known as the MENA region. Many of these individuals are technically considered white, by the rules of the census and other government classifications. For years, however, Arab American activists have objected to the white labeling, arguing that it does not reflect their actual experiences in the United States and that it makes it difficult to gather data about their communities. I don't think it's difficult to gather data about Arab communities, but also I would agree Arabs are not white. They will like never be considered white. They're not white at all. Um so but they are Arab. And Arab is North African. So yes, I do think it would make sense for them to have their own like racial group because they're also like not black. Um I don't know. Activists have welcomed the proposed addition of a MENA category as a way to make their communities more visible. Similarly, Hispanic and Latino activists have taken issue with the way their identities have been classified. The current census lists Hispanic or Latino identity as an ethnicity, which is considered a separate category from race, giving individuals the option to identify as Hispanic or Latino and to choose from among various racial categories. While this allows for the recognition of multifaceted identities such as Afro-Latino, many people have argued that this system is needlessly confusing and causes people to accidentally misidentify themselves when filling out the census. This confusion may contribute to undercounting of Hispanic Americans on the census. Black Americans also tend to be undercounted according to recent research. It also contradictory to the definition of both race. The group or groups that you may identify with as having similar physical traits that are regarded as common among people of shared ancestry and ethnicity is something you acquire based on where your family is from and the group which you share cultural, traditional, and family bonds and experiences with. This, per Merriam-Webster, which states people may have racial similarity but ethnic dissimilarity. We recommend giving by the work. The recommendations given by the working group will now be evaluated. The OMB will spend several months gathering opinions from the public about the proposed changes. Any new or changed racial categories will be implemented with the next census in 2030. So, what are my feelings about that? I think that you should go watch Julian Steve's channel, which is, or some of Saren's video, which is talking about like race, ethnicity, and culture. In Central America, I don't know another way to put it, but I think it's just really important to talk about that. Is it the mestizos graph, basically, that has like the degradations based on like skin color and shit, and how many resources you get. It's like the lighter you are, the more European features you have, basically, the closer you are to like, it's basically like the whole economy is a racial caste system in Latin America. So the darker that you are, the more poor you are, the whiter you are, the richer you are. That is not the case in America, where black people have built a lot of wealth. So I really don't know. Like, Spanish is a language, and so like if one person has like like Latino mother but like a black father, a black American father, I'm not really sure how much it makes sense for that person to be classified racially. Maybe for them to be classified as a biracial person, I suppose. I don't. It all gets very tricky because then if we're talking about a shared cultural identity, then if you grew up in America, no matter what your like racial identity is, when you just all listen to like American music, like we're all listening to like Cardi B, or like we all know who 50 Cent and Eminem are. You know what I mean? So then what? I don't get it. Like what? When you're talking about, and then it's super weird too because people, everyone thinks they know what a black American is, but like technically, Kamala Harris is a black American. I am a black American. We are hella different, right? Like, I'm Habesha. She's Indian. That's a whole different continents. Our culture is so fucking different. We don't even like each other. I hate Kamala Harris. So, like, to say that we're similar is not only insulting, it's just inaccurate, right? So, there's that. And then, I mean, I don't know. Like, is there a shared culture among Central America? Like, when you really, what is it? Like, what is the racial similarity? Because there's hella black people. If you go look at like Latin America right now, there's hella people who like are way darker than me. They just got like straighter hair, maybe curlier hair or something, longer hair. I don't even know. But they all are brown. They're like brown people, but they all look brown. Like racially, most of them are black. Most of them are actually just the same. Racially, they're the same makeup as black Americans, with maybe a little bit more European. Maybe, probably not though. So, I'm kind of missing the point here. Like, maybe we just need to really have that Mephisto chart where we like literally look at the percentage of European blood that you have and Negro blood, and then you get to choose the classification. Because otherwise, what are we saying? Like, what are we doing?